I am the good shepherd. Come follow me. And that's what Jesus asks for us. He wants us to follow him as he is our good shepherd. Now, we live in a society today where sheep and shepherds aren't something that are common in our environment. Some of us probably have never seen a real sheep except in a film or in a book or magazine. We've never really held one or went up and pet one. But in those days, sheep were as common as we see cars going up and down our street, because that was part of their society. And so when Jesus appeals to the people, he uses signs and symbols and common ordinary experiences of their life so that they will know how to relate to what he's saying. So he comes to them as a shepherd. And who's a shepherd? Oh, a shepherd is someone who takes care of his sheep, who loves his sheep, who will go out and risk his life to save his sheep if it gets lost. And that's the exact same message that Jesus wants to give to his flock, who are us. We are his sheep. And he was willing to die for us in order to save us. And that's what the shepherd does. The shepherd is someone who's kind and loving and tender. He'll pick up a sheep and he'll put it on his shoulder and he'll pet it and he'll make it tender with his love if the sheep is afraid. The shepherd will do the same with us. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. In verdant pastures he will lead me. Psalm 42. Yes, the Lord will lead me, but I have to be willing to go. The Lord will not force anything on me. I have free will, and he respects that. But my free will says, yes, I can accept you, Lord, and all your love and your goodness and your kindness and all your graces and even the hope of getting into eternity. I can accept redemption, or I can throw that all away. Yes, I have that right, because God loved me enough to give me free will. And he respects that, because he's other, and that's what love is. Love is other. Love is freedom, not license. Oh, we have the whole concept of love so messed up today. We think love is just pure license. Do what you want with no responsibility, no consequences for our actions. That's not love. That's license. Love has responsibility. Love takes responsibility for its actions. And that's what God wants from us. He wants us to have a responsible love for him and give ourselves to him. As a good shepherd, he will lead us if we let him. And where will he lead us? Well, he will lead us to a place that we can't even begin to imagine. Oh, the great saint of Avila, or St. John of the Cross, or even St. Paul, were taken up to heaven. And when they returned, they said, no eye has seen, no ear has heard of the wonders and the marvels that you will see in the hereafter. Because that's what God promises us. He promises us an eternity of love and happiness and peace that we can't, in our imagination or our wildest dreams, even think about. And it's all ours. It's all ours if we let him shepherd us. And what does that mean? Well, shepherding means that you tenderly love someone, and when you tenderly love someone, that person in return will start to respond. Because we all respond to love. And if we don't respond to love, or we don't have love, then we're going to die. We know this happens psychologically when orphan kids are left in orphanages for years, and they have nobody to cuddle them, or nobody to rock them, or cradle them. They grow up and they have what's known as affection disorder, because they don't know how to relate. They don't know how to have anybody love them. They're lost. They're lost human beings, and they're lost sheep. And many times we're got that same disorder because we've never started a relationship with the God that loves us. And Jesus tries to show us how to do that. Jesus came to show us how to love the Father. He showed us that we have to love God first and foremost above all else, and we have to love our neighbor as ourselves. And when we follow those two commandments, then we'll just start to grow in our own love and development with God and with each other. And when we start to have a life full of love, not license, but love, then our life will begin to change. We will begin to see things in an entirely different point of view. We will start to throw out the junk in our life that has nothing to do with almost anything except to distract us from our own purpose of being here, which is to love, adore, and give gratitude to the God that loves us, who made that commitment to us. His covenant was one of love. And a covenant is something that takes two parties, God and us. And God always fulfills that legal covenant. He never fails. But, sorry to say, we do. And so we need to fulfill our part in that covenant. And we do that by submission. And that seems like an awful hard thing to do, particularly today. Nobody wants to surrender anything. We live in a me society. We live in an egotistic society. We live in a society where everybody's just taking selfies. That's all they think about, is themselves. And if you think of yourselves, you don't have room to think about anybody else. And that's where Christianity comes in. Christianity says, no self, except the self that I made you to be. And the self that I made you to be was in my image and my likeness. And until you get into that image and likeness, you'll never be free. So clean out the gutter garbage in your life. Clean out the stuff in your life that's keeping you from letting you love God the way He wants you to. And until you become empty and you let Him fill you, you'll never be complete. Because St. Augustine said, my heart will always be restless until my heart rests in Thee. And we will always be restless because there's no single thing in this earth that will satisfy us completely. There's only one thing that can fill that emptiness, that hole in our spirit. And that's the God who brought us into being. So learn to turn your life over to God. It's not hard. It may cost you something. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the great German theologian, said, there's no such thing as cheap grace. There is a cost to discipleship. Look at the cost that Jesus had to pay for that discipleship for His Father's will. He ended up on a cross. And He died. He died for you and me, the ultimate gift of love. Now, He may not ask you to be a martyr and give up your life on a cross. But we have daily crosses. We have burdens in our life, and we have problems. And those are the little crosses that we can bear every day. And eventually, those crosses build up in us the graces that we need to change and be transformed into the image that God wanted us to be. So, allow the Good Shepherd to hold you in His hands, to put you on His shoulder. Let Him stroke you, hold you, hug you, and know the infinite love that God has for you.